네, 잠시 안내 말씀 드리겠습니다.
Many of the guests are coming in, so we will begin the Jupiter Symposium in 3 minutes. Starting from 7:13, we will kick off the event. I would like to ask all of you to come inside and take a seat. Once again, many of the guests are coming right now. We will start the event in 3 minutes. Starting from 7:13, we will begin the event. So make sure that you have your seatings.
네.
Good evening, everyone. I am Marketing Director of the Vime Global. My name is Park Min-gu. We are going to start the first Jupiter International Symposium. First of all, thank you very much for being here at night on the Saturday night. And thank you very much for coming here to Yeongjong Island despite the heavy traffic. And there are many international guests who are gathered here today. And your attendance will make this event more meaningful. Thank you very much for your participation, especially the international guests. Jubaluk, private invitation, training, education. That means Jupiter. So, Jubaluk is now starting a new training ground. That's why we have this Jupiter International Symposium. Once again, thank you very much for your participation in the Jupiter International Symposium. Now we are going to kick off the event. Let me tell you the agenda for today. As you can see, for the next 2 days, for about 5 hours, we can listen to the lectures and Q&A. There will be 14 speakers, moderators, and panelists. There will be Korean speakers and international speakers. There will be lots of information that you can learn from. I'd like to ask your full participation in this agenda. Up until 9:30 or 10 o'clock, we can have a lecture. So please stay with us. And to keep you seated, we're going to have the lucky draw at the end of the event. As you can see, after all the lecture, we are going to select 7 distinguished guests, and you can get AirPod, Nespresso machine, and Joe Malone diffuser. On your name tag, there is a lucky draw number at the back of your name tag. So please refer to that, and we're going to have the lucky draw right after the event. So please stay with us till the end of the event. Without further ado, I'm going to announce the beginning of Jupiter International Symposium. First comes first, I would like to invite the CEO of BIME Global, Mr. Jong-Wan Kim.
네, 안녕하십니까.
Hello, good evening. I'm Kim Jong-wan, CEO of VIME Global. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the doctors who took time to attend First Jupiter International Symposium. I especially express my gratitude to the leading doctors and partners from overseas who traveled all the way to Korea. One of the purposes for which we organize Jupiter International Symposium is to express our gratitude and appreciations. Jubaluk was launched in August 2019. At first, there were negative views on how to use polymer products as a skin booster. But for the last few years, it has become the most prominent products in the Korean medical aesthetic market. Jubaluk sales are more than 50 times higher than in the first year of its launch, which is truly remarkable. The use of polymer ingredients as a skin booster is now becoming mainstream trend in Korea, and the replacement of fillers with Jubaluk volume and Lenisna is starting to take off. And I truly believe that we come this far based on the support and the love from doctors who gathered here. You actually prove its effectiveness. Once again, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to every one of you. Now the world is taking notice of Jubaluk. We now have export contract with 72 countries around the world. And based on your active support, the Juberuk will be game changer in the aesthetic market. That is my firm belief. I believe that next big thing in the beauty market after toxin and filler will be Juberuk. And I hope that this Korean brand will be recognized in the international market, and I'd like to ask your support to this end. For today's event, our distinguished guests from home and abroad have spent a lot of time preparing lectures and discussions, and I'd like to express my sincere thanks to Jupiter faculty members. And also, I hope that this event, which we organize with gratitude and respect, will be a meaningful occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. And there is one thing that I missed. All the presentations will be simultaneously translated and it's going to be on YouTube. So there will be some panel discussions from the international guests and you can listen to their voice via the translation device you have. And once you plug in, you can listen to the translation. Channel 1 is for Korean and channel 2 is English. So you can choose the channel you'd like to listen to. So during the discussion or during the international lecture, you can listen to Korean on channel number 1. So please enjoy this international symposium. Now we are going to kick off the event. First comes first. I would like to invite Dr. Seok-il, who is the moderator for the first session. Dr. Seok graduated from the Seoul National University College of the Medicine, and he got the MD from the Seoul National University, and he is the director of the Modelo Dermatology Clinic, and he is also the Korean Dermatology Society's president of the Asian Society for the Dermatologic Surgery. Please welcome Dr. Sir as a moderator. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm not a speaker though, but just about 3 years ago, I first had the experience about the Juvel look. And at that time, I heard it was more like a copy product of the Sculptra, but that was wrong. So Juvel look made a huge quantum leap for the short period of time. That is an amazing achievement. This product was so great, but in addition to it, there has been lots of academic events like this and lots of the marketing activities that have been exerted by VIME Global. Congratulations on your success. In the first session, we have the two speakers, how Juvelo can be utilized for rejuvenation and what is the mechanism of the action. It is not a copy product of the Sculptra. It is something new. So you can take a look at the innovative mechanism of action of Juvelo. And you can take a look at what is the mechanism of action and what are the use cases. The first speaker is Professor Byun Kyung-hee from Gachon University. Let me introduce Professor Byun. She graduated from Jeju University and she got the MD from Jeju University. Currently, she is teaching at the Gachon University College of the Medicine. She is an active scholar and regarding the Juvel look, and she is a renowned scholar because she found out the rejuvenation mechanism using the ADSC. And based on her wonderful two publications, she's going to make a presentation. Thank you. I personally believe this can be the biggest international event since the inception of the VIME Global. In this wonderful location, I was invited. Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity. Mr. Kim Jong-wang and my colleagues, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Starting from 2021 October, we started our research project along with the VIME Global. In the beginning, we studied the mechanism of action of Jubeluk product and Jubeluk volume product. Currently, we are trying to find out the new material development and the new component discovery. Today, I'm going to tell you about my research outcome and the research outcome of the two publications that was made in the last 1.5 years. The first publication is about Jubaluk, how it can be used for the rejuvenation, how it can contribute to fiber generation and fiber synthesis. And even with the fiber generation, even the dermis ecosystem or the environment is not that good, the effect will not be long-lasting. So the second publication was about the controlling and modulating the dermis ecosystem. Let me focus first on the first publication. As you may understand, polymer, PDLLA, is a medical device. Medical device is different from the medicine. Within the dermis, how the PDLLA can boost the cell and fiber synthesis can be made is really important. So, foreign body giant cell is really important. Foreign body reaction can be your key focus area. That's natural. Foreign body giant cell and foreign body reaction can be created by this kind of cell. And within 1 hour, there will be inflammation. And within 2 days, neutrophils will engage. And the neutrophil will call the monocytes. Monocytes, once coming into the tissue, activate macrophage. And the macrophages will create foreign body giant cells. After 3 weeks, collagens can be created thanks to foreign body giant cell. Everyone is paying attention to foreign body giant cell, but we should not forget about macrophage effect, and macrophage fusion is contributing to foreign body giant cell generation. If there are too much foreign body giant cell, there will be a scar. So, macrophage activation is really important. And there will be a smaller volume of the macrophage and the smaller volume of the foreign body giant cell according to the publication that was published in 2018. When it comes to the macrophage, as you know, it is in M0. It is not doing anything. When there is an inflammatory action, it is creating M1, pro-inflammatory cell. And also, it has anti-inflammatory effect, which is M2. The reaction between M1 and M2 can be really important in foreign body reaction and foreign body giant cell generation. So, foreign body reaction and inflammatory cells are really important. But let me tell you more about the mechanism of the action. Once M1 is activated, as you can see in the timeline, within the 6 days, they should go down, as you can see on the screen. However, what is more important is M2, anti-inflammatory cell. That is a well-known phenomenon. And even with the time, the M2 can be working and they should be activated. However, M1 and M2 goes up until the day 6, and if it is not going down, it will create inflammation. If the M2 is working, then there can be long-lasting effect. If you want to have the foreign body reaction, foreign body giant cell, what is really important is macrophage. And among the macrophage, the type 2 anti-inflammatory cells will be really important. So M2 is really important. M2 can be important for the foreign body reaction. And also, M2 can be really important in maintaining the dermis environment. As you can see, there will be fiber degradation when MMP12 is going up, and sometimes it can create aging. As you age, there will be some ROS on your skin, so pro-inflammatory cell will be activated and fibroblast will become older and older. There will be vicious cycle and fiber degradation will accelerate it. As you age, yes, sometimes ROS will come to your body and fibroblast will become older and older. So, if you want to create a new fiber, and when you have the old fibroblast which is not functioning that well, in that case it is not possible to create new fiber. So, when you have the young fibroblast, you can have the fiber generation, which means how you can recruit the young fibroblast can be really important. So, there can be a few important factors. The more fibroblast or whatever the fibroblast it may be, the fibroblast can be generated from mesenchymal stem cell. In our skin, there is a dermis, epidermis, and there will be the fat layer, and within the fat layer, there will be a huge volume of mesenchymal stem cell. Mesenchymal stem cell, if they can be utilized better, then even though your body is old, your stem cell can create younger fibroblasts. Then the fiber generation can be activated better. So with Juveluc, we started our research. And we believe that Juveluc can induce M2 polarization. And there are lots of the stem cell. And our question was whether Juveluc can activate the mesenchymal stem cell so that they can contribute to better fibroblast generation and eventually younger fiber generation. And if the cells are old enough, can we delay the aging process? These were some of the research questions we had in the beginning. I will tell you lots of the mechanism of actions, but the key here is this. Juveluc is good at M2 polarization and it is good at stem cell activation, and younger fibroblasts can be created and the fiber generations can be done by using Juveluc. This is the hypothesis. When there is a dermal injection of the Juveluc, M2 polarization will be made and the interleukin-10 will be coming out. And the interleukin-10 will have the effect on the fibroblast. And also, it can delay the aging process of the stem cell. It can activate the stem cell proliferation. And also, it can modulate the aging process of the fibroblast, eventually creating more fiber. And at the same time, fiber degradation will be delayed and eventually contributing to skin rejuvenation. That was our assumption. Many of you are the clinicians, and you may be wondering whether this animal study can be applied to human body. But whatever medicine or whatever food you are developing, sometimes the dose can be different between the animal and human. However, for the medical device and or the skin booster, the dose can be pretty much similar between the animal model and human model. That's why we started to use the animal model. And we wanted to utilize the animal model that can be very similar to human body. We used the 14-month-old mice, which is equivalent to man in his mid-50s. Injection was made on the 2x2 size. 500 microliter was injected. Juveluc was used. 100 microliter with 5 points, and we use the screw needle 27Z. And we compare the effect between the PDLLA and HA. And as you know, the thermal injection should be verified when you are using this animal model. As you can see, this epidermis, dermis, fat, and muscle layer, when we injected the Juveluc, you can see the target layer was the dermis, and the dermis injection was perfectly made. Now let's move on to the mechanism of the action more. As I told you, the key point in this one is how much empty polarization can be made thanks to Juveluc. We counted each cell. And old mouse usually have the M1, but when you have the Juveluc injection, as you can see, 30% more M2 polarization. Compared to HA, the increase of the M2 was only 11%. However, with the PDLLA, the increase was 30%. The polarization was really good. When you take a look at the interleukin 10, you can see there was 3 times of the increase for the interleukin 10 secretion. So M2 polarization was good and interleukin 10 secretion was good. So I believe that the stem cell aging can be modulated and the proliferation can be modulated. And you can see the first one is the young mouse, and the second, third, and the fourth one are the old mouse. You can see the comparison between the PDLLA and HA. With the Juveluc, P21, the P16 was going down, which means the aging was going down. As for the stem cell proliferation, you can see the activation is higher by more than 110%. Juveluc has more than 110% of the stem cell proliferation. The TGF-beta and the FGF2 was going up with the injection of Juveluc. That was happening within the cell. Then how about in the tissue? The first tissue is from the young animal. The second one is the old animal. And you can see the control and experiment, cell line, PDLLA, and HA. With the 8-week period, we use the CD166, which is the stem cell marker. And also we use the PCNA to see how much proliferation was made. The more green you see, the more ASC there will be. And when there are red marked ones, it means the proliferation is now activated. The ASC will increase. And eventually, stem cell will become fibroblast and there will be more fiber generation when you see more green and red. You can see the white arrows. Without the Juveluc, you cannot see the green mark, but with the Juveluc, you can see in the week 2 and the week 4, you can see the merge of the red and the green cells, which means the proliferation is sometimes already done. To quantify that, the increase is by more than 160%. Of course, HA has some effect, but however, the effect from the PDLLA stem cell recruiting is much higher. When you eat up the collagen or when you are using the skin booster, the effect can be very short term. However, in the long term, sometimes you cannot get any outcome because the cells will be degraded as time goes by. However, I believe, even though I didn't use this PDLLA, but I would say PDLLA can have a better long-term effect, mainly because initially stem cells can be activated very much. At the week 8, when you take a look at this, the volume is going down because at the week 8, it is not because stem cell is decreasing. At the week 2 and week 4, we have more and more stem cell, but at the week 8, the stem cell have been differentiated into fibroblast and they are contributing to fiber volume. So Jubaluc is really good at M2 polarization. Anti-inflammatory effect will be lasting. So for the acne and for the implementation, it can have a good effect. The stem cell can be really activated a lot in the beginning. That's why they can have the longer lasting effect. Stem cell will increase and there will be more fibroblast to be generated, and fibroblast aging can be delayed thanks to Jubaluc. Fibroblasts usually do not proliferate. For example, your brain cell or the fibroblast do not proliferate that much as you age. However, as you can see, the proliferation rate was more than 2 times higher. That is really meaningful. So the collagen type 1, 3, and elastin binding protein also increased. Then how about the dermal condition? The fiber within the dermis, you can see when you have this kind of the staining, you can see lots of the fiber. Newly generated and the mocho fiber cannot be separated just with this staining. But when you use the Harrovich staining, you can see the blue are newly generated ones, the red one are the mature ones, and the orange ones are now degraded. They are not functioning anymore. When you take a look at the younger skin, yes, it is blue. And with the injection of the Jubaluc at the week 8, you can see there are more blue and the red. Compared to the HA, it is much better. And elastic fiber was also increasing. This one was published on the June of 2026. The impact factor is around 8. The antioxidant is a really popular journal, and you can take my publication in this journal. Then how about the dermis environment? What about the long-term effect? The dermis environment is really important to get the long-lasting effect. When the skin is becoming old, you can see epidermis is decreasing, the dermis is decreasing, and the blood vessel is decreasing. Especially the capillary vessel is going down, and you have the bad blood circulation and the bad delivery of the nutrients. Then your dermis environment will get worse and worse as you age. However, to keep environment healthy, you should keep your capillary vessel. Then how can you keep or regenerate these capillary vessels? There are lots of factors that can contribute to the capillary vessels. For example, when you have the less VEGFR and the VEGF, you do not have lots of angiogenesis. And the VEGF can be impacted by M2 polarization. If you have a good M2 polarization, you can have better angiogenesis, which means you can get the new vessels. And when the dermal injection is made, M2 polarization can be made, as I told you, and HSP90 and HIF1 alpha will be created, and eventually VEGF will go up and the VEGFR2 will go up, and eventually the dermis environment will get better. Another experiment was made, and the comparison was made against the PN and CAHA. The injection methodology was the same. You can see the young cell and the old cell, and you can see the comparison between the cell line PDLLA, PN, and CAHA. And when you take a look at the HSP90, HIF, and the VGF expression, you can see the PDLLA has a much higher expression. Endothelial cell is really important. As you may understand, the endothelial cell proliferation cannot be made. So when you take a look at the endothelial cell proliferation, you can see this kind of outcome. And endothelial cell migration is also important for the angiogenesis. When we intentionally made the middle part vacant, we wanted to take a look at whether the EC migration is made or not. So PDLLA has a huge migration of the EC, and EC tube formation was also studied. The bottom line is M2 polarization and stem cell activation was the key point for the publication number 1. In the paper 2, M2 polarization can contribute to endothelial cell modulation, and the dermis thickness can increase or not. As you can see, the tube formation was made with the endothelial cell, and ROS was going down, and you can see the TGF beta collagen type 1 and 3 expression was much higher compared to the comparison. CAHA has contributed to TGF beta compared to other comparison substances. Juveluc can contribute to angiogenesis, and it can even control ROS and TGF beta. And we have this kind of messenger Herovich staining and the mesent trichrome staining, and you can see the PDLLA can have a long-term effect. Even after the week 8, it can have a longer effect. And we even looked at the week 12. And I can see the upward trend even at the week 12. The outcome was really good, so probably this can have the longer lasting effect. When you take a look at the dermal thickness, with the aging skin, the dermal thickness is becoming thinner and thinner. However, with the PDLLA, you can see the dermal thickness increase. And also, as for the skin elasticity, at the week 8, there was a dramatic increase of the skin elasticity, which is equivalent to young mice. So this was a really meaningful data. And we submitted the first paper first. However, this second paper was new because this one is about the angiogenesis. This one is accepted earlier in this April. In a nutshell, what I can tell you is Juveluc is good at M2 polarization. The stem cell and the fibroblast aging can be delayed within the dermis, and proliferation can go up, fibrosynthesis can go up, and even angiogenesis can be activated. ROS can go down and eventually contribute to skin rejuvenation. This was possible thanks to my team and Dr. Seo. Starting from the 2021 during the COVID-19 helped us a lot, and Mr. Kim and Mr. Park helped us a lot, and we had a regular meeting at least once a month. Thanks to their help, I was able to get this wonderful outcome, and I'm so pleased to share this outcome along with you. Thank you very much for listening.
네,
Thank you very much for the wonderful information, Professor Pyun. And now we're gonna move on to the second speaker.
So now we are going to invite the second speaker. Dr. Park Jae-young will be invited up to the stage, not only in Korea but also in overseas arena. Actually, he is a well-known figure, so let me introduce him briefly. So he graduated from Seoul National University and he completed doctor's degree at the same university. And currently he is a doctor in Apgujeong, the dermatology clinic. So he's going to share the clinical data in this presentation. So let's invite him. Well, thank you. I'm Park Jae-young from Oracle Dermatology. So today we have a Jupiter International Symposium. First of all, it's my great honor to be part of this event. So the Professor Byun shared the theoretic information. So I'd like to share clinical data. In the year 2011, and the collagen stimulator from other company had a great launch. So I got to know about that, and there was a various seminar. But I did not have a great attraction about that product. So back then, that was the booming area of HA. So without the swelling effect and without any the bruising effect, HA had a great outcomes. So I did not have a great interest about collagen, the stimulator. But as you can see in the title of my presentation, the Juberuk is a new game changer. About 1 year ago, and I got to know about Juberuk. So that is quite different from the launch of Sculptra. As many of you feel, there are many the philophobia patients. So some patients they refuse to get the filler, and I can see there are increasing number of patients. That is not only in Korea and other countries. I can see the same phenomena. When I go to overseas and the meetings and the seminars, and there are discussions about side effect that comes from HA filler, and also there are the resentment from and the international the patient, and well they actually called the philophobia. The collagen stimulator that will be new game changer, and the Juberuk will be the prime products. I have a firm belief on that. So let me begin my talks then. So let's move to the middle part of the stage. So they are the beautiful, the well people indeed. So when we have the balloon full of air, that is pretty, but without the air, so we can see the grumpers and the wrinkles. And well, without this, the well beautify effect, it is difficult to keep the usefulness. So ball miser, that is essential to many patients, and we have a frequent visit and increasing number of visit of those patients. So not only in Korea but also overseas, we can see the kind of no filler campaign. So people have the great awareness about side effect of filler. So quite years ago, and the people start to talk about that. And for about 5 or 6 years ago, and there was discussions about the side effect of filler, and the consumers are very sensitive. For about 10 years, actually, the filler was used by many doctors, but there are increasing number of patients who have philophobia, and they want to have lasers and other these sessions in order to beautify their skin. So these are the products. These are the collagen stimulator, the STS pill, and that is another product. There are some differences between these products. I'm going to share those differences later. But anyhow, the Juberuk, and I believe that will be game changer certainly in aesthetic market. So here, I'd like to share some the strong point of PLLA. So some they say that these are still the foreign the elements. So if the patient use their own collagen, and many patients are willing to take that one, it is important to have a foundation frame which is favorable to their own skin. So that is a strong point of the LLA. But there was no immediate the outcomes, and also it was difficult to have a good balance. And as for the doctors, it is quite difficult to have expected outcomes. So that's why we had a great challenges regarding PLLA. So there was some short point. But when it comes to the Juberug PDLLA, and we can see great outcome indeed, because the challenges we experienced with the PLLA can be overcome with the PDLLA. So let me briefly explain the PDLLA. So the polylactic acid, that is the basic. And when it comes to the PLLA, and there are 100% the L form. So this is an isomer of a polylactic acid. So today, what I want to introduce and focus on is a PDLLA. That is a 50% of D form and a 50% of L form. So when it comes to the arrangement and the contact surface area, and that is somewhat randomly organized, but well, we can change this one by appropriately applying PDLLA. What is important thing is the shape of a particle. PLLA has a sharp edges of particles, so that can cause the intense inflammations. That can be one of the problem of a PLLA because of the shape of a particle that is inevitable. But as you can see, the shape of a PDLLA, that is a spherical shape, that is a foamy shape. That's why that will be less problem regarding inflammations, and that there is a porous structure inside. So that is a big differences. So as I said, even though there is inflammations, and that is a mild inflammation in comparison to PLLA, it has a very mild the inflammations. So when slowly injected, the PDLLA has a very low the risk. That is a great difference and the strength of a PDLLA. And also, while that has a great benefits regarding glass at the transition temperatures. When heat is given to glass, and the solid glass will turn into liquid glass. So the glass transition temperature, Tg, that is in the middle, so between solid and liquid. When the temperatures is continuously increased, the glass will turn into the liquid shape and the movement will increase. And as it moves to the fluid stage, the movement will increase about 2.5 times. When glass at the transition temperature goes up, that the material gets quite rigid, and when glass transition temperature low, that has pretty soft the characteristics. So here you can see comparison between PLLA and PDLLA regarding glass transition temperature. PLLA is about 60 to 65 degrees Celsius, and PDLLA is about 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, which means PDLLA is more soft, and when nodule is generated by giving the minimum amount of the heat, that can be resolved in relatively easy manner. And you can see the hydrated PDLA, the tablets. So when it comes to the dry state, that is about 50 degrees Celsius. And when temperatures is changes and adjusted, and we can have more benefits. and that can go down to the 40 degrees Celsius. So when there is a nodule generations, and by utilizing the radio frequency devices, and we can resolve nodule issues, and also massages can be done on the skin area, and also by utilizing aesthetic devices, these particles can spread better, so nodule problem can be relatively easily resolved. So that is a great benefit of a PDLLA. That is all because of ladder relatively low temperature of glass transitions of a PDLLA. And you can see the big differences between the Juvarug and the Juvarug volumes. And here you can see the particle size, and that is the quite different. So the Juvarug's the particle size is about 34, and also the Juvarug volume that is about 4081. So as for the filler replacement, Juvarug has a great advantages indeed. So this can be the additional informations. So as for filler, and these the products can be used, and also skin booster. This product is quite the popular. So as I said, and the degradation time and the volumizing effect, and those can be different between the two. And the inner structure can be degraded, so also the structure can have a great benefits indeed. And as a pill, and that was introduced in Korea a few years ago, and the Juvarug volume and as the pill have a great differences indeed. So as the pill, that is a PDLA, the CMC. So that is the CMC matrix. So that causes the allergic effect, and also swelling can be caused because of acetophyll. But when it comes to the Juvarug volumes, and the problems can be reduced dramatically because there is no CMC. So swelling can be prevented, and also the immediate lifting effect can be enjoyed, and that can be great benefit. So Juvarug volume and acetophyll, and when we see the compare those two, and there are the differences in the internal structures. So the porous structure can be seen in the Juvarug volumes, so slow release can be seen in the Juvarug volumes. That is a difference. That is a great benefit that comes from the particle structures. There can be various ways for the preparations. Normal cell line can be added at about 2 dcc can be added, and 6 cc can be added, and that will be weaved for about 24 hours at room temperatures. And the vortex mixer can be used, and about 3 minutes the mixing can be done. So there can be no particles, and after 3-minute mixture you can see the white the liquid. So the 2% lidocaine can be added, and with that can be applied to the face. So, well, 24 hours of the preparation time, that was the great the inconvenience. So, for example, when I receive the reservations from the patient, I should wait about the 24 hours. So, well, if we resolve this one, that can give a great benefits indeed. So by using the vortex mixer, the 30-minute mixing can be done, and the nodal risk can be dramatically reduced, and also the waiting time can be reduced as well. So the needle can be used, and well, when we use one viral, and we can have the 8 different the syringes. So at the time of injections, and I do use the cannula, and homogeneous mixture can be applied, and I use 23 gauge cannula, even though there is no the blocks when it comes to the particles, but still I use 23 the cannula. And also, well, there will be the big differences regarding the existing the products. So when you apply this one, in order to reduce the nodules and granuloma, and you should follow the preparation the practices, and also the massage can be done. Inflamed nodule can cause a great problem, and that is different from granuloma. Granuloma can be generated in the later stages, and the nodules that generated 1 month and 2 months, that will not be the granuloma. So if you do not have the even injections, that will be problems. Implant nodule can be generated because of that, and also soon after the injections. And you can actually use vibrating machines. The radio frequency machines can be used in order to reduce the nodule risk, and that can give great benefits indeed. And actually, every 1 month interval, and I do the 3 different sessions, and depending on the conditions of a patient, I can do additional cycle as well. And also, when it comes to the tear, the trough, I do not do the injections in the tear trough. When we see the Asian and the populations, and I believe it is better not to do the tear trough, and you can see the outcomes after the first trial. And if there is some nodule, the problems, there will be great complaints. And when it comes to the tear, the trough, it is difficult to do the antinode. So that's why you should be very cautious. Even though I do not do the injection to tear trough, and well, if you do that, there will be great challenges. And after these procedures, if there is a problems, and you should give the numerous excuse. So it is better not to do on the tear trough, and also you should give a thorough explanation to patient. I do not want to any arguments. That's why I have a very cautious practices. It is possible to do injection in tear trough, but I do not recommend the tear trough. So actually, marionette line, that will be the one and the recommended areas. And based on my experience, and if you do the good preparations, and if you do even injections, and the marionette line can have the good outcomes as well. And so temples and marionette lines, and those are the prime areas. There are many the sunken the patient, so sagging and hollowing can be seen in some patient. So I do use 2 buyers in those patient. So this one is the nodule cases. So about 10 years ago, when we do the educations, and actually we share the informations to our patient. So if we use too concentrated products, there can be nodule problems. And also if you apply to the periorbital areas and marionette areas, and you can have nodules because those are the movable areas. So about 10 years ago, when we do the educations and training about PLLA, and we did not recommend the periorbital areas and marionette areas. So that was the informations we shared. And also every day for about 5 minutes, a massage can be done. And the massage can be done for about 5 days after injections. And that was recommended. But I'm not sure whether the patient are strictly following that. But with the small amount of massages for limited number of days, and I believe the nodule can be reduced. And this can be additional information about PLLA vascular oxidants. So when it comes to the vascular oxidants, and that has a close relations to particle size. So sometimes and there can be the severe side effect. And when we do the fat the transplantations, there can be the serious problems. So there was some the studies about that. And when we see the PLLA on the temples and irid and the forehead areas, there can be the vascular oxidant. There are a few reported the cases. So it is important to have a cautious approaches. Those are not 100% safe, so you should be very cautious as well. So when you do the injections for about 2 days, and there is about a bit of the swollen and the effect. So the volumizing effect can be visible. So that is enhancing the people's satisfaction indeed. So actually, the Professor Beyond shared the mechanism. So according to the mechanism, the collagen is generated. So volumizing effect is visible. So the preparation can reduce nodule risk. When I see the current cases, so, there was problems of nodule from this culture, and if there is a proper the preparations, there is a no nodule the cases, but still. Even though I did not witness a nodule the problems, and I cannot say that is 100% safe, so you can do the radio frequency device and the adjustment. By doing so, and you can resolve the problem. If temperature goes up to 40 degrees Celsius, and that the area gets soft, so you can reduce the nodule problems. If you apply the radio frequency device for about 2 times, and you can resolve this problem. And if you cannot resolve this problem with a radio frequency device, and you can do some suctions and also the additional measures. With that, you can resolve that one. As for the nodule management, in order to prevent nodule soon after procedures, and you can do the 5-minute the vibrating machine the massages. So particles can spread better with 5-minute massages, so nodule risk can be dramatically reduced. So including me, about 5 the doctors they had the trials. One with Sculptra, the other with the Juberux. So that was the blind study. So we interpreted those study data, and we already collected all these study data. We are preparing the paper. So even though we did not finalize this study, and I can share this study result. So you can see the cannula is used, and this is a 6 multi-center study. 33 patients was enrolled, and you can see this data. So, as you can see, the Juberux volume has a better outcomes. So, in some aspects, the Juberux volume and the Sculptra are similar, and when it comes to the volumizing effect, the Juberux volume has a better outcomes. That is the data. We do not have a finalized data yet. So which one is a Sculptra and which one is a Juberux? So the right side has a better the volumization effect, and even though that is a 1 month after, and you can see the differences. The left side is a Sculptra, and the right side is the Juberux. So 2 cc was injected initially. So even though the endpoint is the same, and you can see the differences after first and the second and the third cycle, and you can adjust the amount. So as for the retro cheek, and there can be the differences. And the right side, you can see the better outcomes. So in comparison to Sculptra, the Juvaruk has better satisfactions. So let me share a few more outcomes here. So this patient is in her 20s. So for about 5 or 6 years, she used filler. So she had filler procedures. But she came to my clinic and she said she does not want to continue filler. But still there is the sagging. So she said the ulcera she asked whether ulcera can be option, but ulcera cannot do any volumizing practices. That's why I recommended this Juvaruk. So I had 3 different sessions on this patient, and also I could see expected outcomes. And this particular patient is in her 40s, and on the forehead there was the filler issues, and she had a filler practice in other clinics. So the LNC was used previously, soon after the procedures, and the outcome was pretty good. But forehead can have problems. So irregularity can be one problem of HA filler, and when there is the scar effect, and there cannot be any changes. So the patient will have a pretty tough time with a filler. So when there is the quite a dramatic the effect, and that can be dramatic side effect as well. So because of the irregularity issues on forehead, and she had the kind of the rejection about filler products. That's why I had 3 sessions of Juvaruk, and that was quite a good outcome. And this is our last case, and this particular patient is in the early 80s. So, and we have a patient in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And in our clinic, we have such a patient. And as for those patients, HA 6cc, 7cc, and 8cc can be applied, but they will have some sagging problems. So that is the problem. So by doing this, Juvaruk, the products, the tightening effect and the volumizing effect can be enjoyed. That is a big differences from HA. So let me give you the video clip here. So please turn off the audio. So let's go fast forward. So I'd like to go fast forward, please. Maybe in the middle of the video clip. So I'd like to show the face and the hand, and so I'd like to show the face part. And in the middle, actually there are 2 different video clips. One is about face, the other one is about hand. So I'd like to go to the middle part of the face video. All of you are experts, so I do not need to talk about the basic things. So it would be good if I can adjust this video clip, but that is not possible. So let's play the first video, and please go to the middle part. And there is one woman and the patient. So I try to use one viral. So there was the sunken problems. So the ferroorbital areas and the marionate areas. So I did full CC injections on the patient, and there was no the particular the practice. So could you go faster? So next one, please. So you cannot go fast forward. So I just explained the hand. So there is nothing this special. So the 24, the cannula is used, and I do temple first, and after that, the anterior, the medial, and also the lateral cheeks. And well, that is the order. So temple first, and after that, go to the cheeks and the lateral areas and the posterior areas. And this one is the hand, and nothing special, but you should not go deeper when it comes to the hand. So the wet target area, that is the superficial dermis. So you should go very shallow. You should not go deep into the hand. If you go to the deep injections, you will have some the movement issues. And if you go into the deeper areas, inflammation can occur, and also the duration can be shortened. That is a side effect. So you should go very shallow. So while we will look the same the side here. So I go into the shallow areas. There is an injection point, the proximal area, that will be the starting injection point. So that can be quite important areas. So proximal area, and that is a starting point, but you should not go deeper. You should not go into subcutaneous areas. Otherwise, you cannot have a good outcomes. So if you go deeper, you will have the ambiguous the outcomes, and you cannot have expected outcomes. So well, that will cause inflammation issues and also movement issues. So you should go to the proximal, and I use the cannula rather than needles. So 22 gauge cannula is used, and 23 can be used. But and in order to go the shallow, and as for the hand, I using 22 cannula. So this is a very shallow injections. So there is only one entry at the point, and we can do the well fanning. And but here, and I actually had 5 the point. So the 1 point and the fanning, and there can be one options, but you can increase the entry point. And as for me, I increased that one to 5 times. And if you have only one entry, and you can and actually have the compartment, the well collapse problems, and also migration can occur inside the dermis. That's why, and I increased the number of entry point. So rather than only one entry point, and it is better to increase the entry point numbers. And this is the last slide. As I shared, well, as for the volumizing, and volumizing injection is required for the patient. So as I said, the TG that is much lower, so but there can have a much lower nodal risk, and also well that can have a great the benefits indeed, and it has a better biocompatibilities, and also that has a greater modalities. That is a great benefits. So now we are going to have a Q&A sessions, and we are going to invite Professor Björn up to the stage in order to have a Q&A sessions. So as for 2 presentations, we are going to accommodate the questions.
예, 우리 서석배 선생님.
Dr. So, please deliver the microphone to Dr. So. I'm So Seok-bae. Dr. Byun, thank you very much. And also Dr. Park, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. My question is about stem cell. PLLA. Sharp PLLA can recruit or differentiate stem cell That is my assumption. In the initial screening phase, we didn't observe that kind of effect. So what do you think about it, Dr. Bian? And stem cell can go up or activate it to week 2 or week 4. When stem cell is activated and empty polarization are going in tandem at the same time, when the stem cell is activated, the empty polarization is working better. They are in tandem. So when you inject the substance once again, there will be virtuous cycle between the two. For the PLLA, as Dr. Pang mentioned, for example, the products like Sculptra, well, I've been studying this area for a long time. As for the Jubaluk, I was wondering whether Jubaluk is absolutely better or is it better compared to other substance or other products. I tried many substances and many products because I was wondering about the mechanism of the action. The Sculptra is not the round shape. It is a quite sharp shape. The sharp shape can induce inflammation very well. So the round polymer is always the better. That is well known. When you have inflammatory cell, stem cell cannot be activated that well. With PLLA, well, the stem cell when the in vivo and the in vitro activation was not that high. And actually, I was not able to observe the stem cell activation at all. Maybe it is because of the injection methodology or the dilution concentration, but with the PLLA injection, stem cell activation was not made. It is more like a pro-inflammatory cytokine activation. That was my observation. So I would say Jubaluk can activate stem cell. And when you want to have a stem cell activation, there must be virtuous cycle. The cytokine is necessary from the anti-inflammation, and stem cell should be activated, and the growth factor from the stem cell should have the virtuous cycle for the cytokine. That is the great benefit of the Juvelok. Even though you have activated the stem cell, if it cannot be differentiated into fibroblast, fiber generation cannot be made. And I would say Juvelok can help the stem cell differentiation into fibroblast. And that was the dramatic outcome according to our experiment.
하나 더
So let me ask question to Dr. Park Jae-young. So when I hear from doctors and after injections, and actually the action over time is required, so we should wait for about 4 weeks. So when we see the clinical cases, so patient and feel the differences after 2 weeks. So most of the doctors and they say we should wait for about 4 weeks. But when we see the cytokine from stem cell, that is quite the enormous. So enormous amount comes out. So the patient actually feel the differences after 2 weeks, and the injection can be repeated. Then in the case we can have a better outcomes. And I believe there is early actions and which is shorter than 4 weeks. So what is your experience? So as you said, after injections, and when it comes to PLLA, that is more like water. So after 1 week, and the phase status come to the original status, and we should wait. But when it comes to this, the new products, there are great advantages indeed. So there is initial the outcomes. And after 1 week and up to 1 month, and there can be volumizing effect. So after 1 month, and there can be the second sessions. When you see the second sessions, about 70% and 80% improvement can be witnessed, and that is the differences. So as you can see, and the stem cells generate the beneficial the materials and elements, and that's why we have initial outcomes. The collagen stimulator can help this. So volumizing effect can be seen. So, well, actually the geometric volume shorten and the time we have to wait to see the differences. So as for the HEA, and that had some issues, but by using the additional the materials and the products, we can narrow the gaps as well.
네, 강의 잘 들었습니다. 박재영 선생님께
Well, let me ask question to Dr. Park Jae-young. I frequently use this product, but what I heard is, and it might be better with more the dilutions, but I do not have accurate data about that. So actually, I do more dilutions compared to your data. I do more the dilutions. I'd like to hear your opinions. As for the dilutions, further evaluation is required. So the some argues that the 1 to 16, and that is a beta, and also the more the dilutions should be done, but we can make out the differences case by case. So stem cell stimulations is important, and also there are many other important elements. But in order to replace filler, and we can do the different the dilutions. The PDLLA can have some tailored the outcomes. And as for the sunken patient, ACC will be better, and the lateral cheek and also the orbital areas, when you do the partial areas better, dilution will be better. And as for the skin booster, it will be better, higher dilutions. So depending on the concern of a patient and the different hydration can be done. So that can be great advantages of Juveru.
제가 질문 하나 드리면 H
So you do not, I believe you also use HA filler. So, well, is there any difference indications regarding HA filler and also Juveruk? And at the time of screening, do you do any the differentiations? So filler, that will be okay, but some say they do not want to do the fillers. And as for the patient who want to have a volumizing effect, and if they do not want to do the filler, and other products can be recommended. And in earlier I gave the full explanations. And depending on the patient and depending on the preference of a patient, and I do different practices. And as for the foreign elements, and some patients show the phobia. So some patients have a philophobia. In the case, I use the different the products. As for the rib areas, HA filler can be used, but as for the thin areas, which can have some the nodule the effects, then I use the Juveruc products. As for the older patient, if I use a higher filler amount, that will be greater risk. That's why, depending on the patient, I adjust the products and amount.
Hello, Dr.
My friend,
Park.
Basano.
Okay, I have two questions for each of you. The first question is about TGF or transforming growth factor beta that's secreted from adipocyte-derived stem cells. What do you think in patients who had keloid prone? Is there anything that we have to worry about? Because keloid, was stimulated by TGF beta. I think this is the first question for me, for the first speaker. And the second question is that we know that after injected with the product, and then we have to wait for a few weeks, and then we get collagen stimulation. For Dr. Park, do you think is it a good idea if we do like focus ultrasound 1 month or 2 months after injection, because we know that it's going to be proper time to stimulate more collagen? What do you think?
네, 질문 감사합니다. 저희 역시
Thank you very much for the question. When we are doing the stem cell research, that's the key concern that we have. And if the stem cell is too much activated, and when there are too much growth factor coming out of that, there can be some side effect, as you mentioned. So we are trying to have the growth factor within the normal range. That's something that we are taking a look. TGF beta 1 to 3, compared to the younger generation, if it is going too excessive, or is it just going higher than the average of the aged people? But I don't think Juvalu does not have an excessive expression to have a side effect, as you mentioned.
두 번째 질문.
As for the second question, so the ultrasound combination treatment can be considered. So just like any other doctors, I do combination treatments pretty often. So ultrasound HIFU device that can be used, and also the other combination device can be applied as well. So for about 2 weeks, time is required. So by doing so, side effect can be reduced. So as for the combinations, and well, there should be some and the time secured after injections. The radio frequency device can be used, and also the PDLA, that can be applied as well. So, well, I do the 3 different sessions with the interval. So when you do the combinations, we should wait for about 2 weeks.
더 이상 질문이 없으시면
And without further questions, I would like to wrap up the first session. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Dr. Ko will moderate the second session. Professor Pyun and Dr. Park, thank you very much. And also, Dr. Seo, thank you very much for moderating the session. Thank you very much. And we have the international speaker. It's going to be made in English, so please tune into your preferred language. You can either listen directly in English or you can listen to Korean on channel number 1. On channel number 2, you can listen in English. On channel number 1, you can listen in Korean. Now, let's start the session number 2. Dr. Ko Woo-seok will be the moderator for the part 2. Dr. Ko graduated from the Seoul National University, and he got the MD from the Seoul National University. He was the fellow for the Harvard University and the Massachusetts University. Currently, he is the director for the JMO Dermatology Clinic. Dr. Ko, please. I'm Ko Woo-seok. Thank you very much for having me today. Today, the weather is really wonderful. It's a nice day to go outside, but you are gathered here today because of you wanting to learn so much about this new substance. Thank you very much for being here today. Today, we are going to take a look at how the Lenisna or the Jubalo can be utilized in Europe. And Poland is one of the countries that is utilizing Jubalug a lot. And we have one of the renowned experts from European countries. The speaker is Monica Kret. Dr. Monica Kret got lots of education, and she got the MD from the Warsaw University. She is a member of the Polish Society of the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging. Currently, she has made lots of publications, and she has appeared on lots of the podcasts, and she has engaged in various training of the workshops. She is a clinician who has lots of experiences, and she is a trainer of the Lenisna product. And body contouring and the face contouring is her expertise. She is a general doctor However, she is covering various beauty clinics and she has lots of clinical experiences. Today, Dr. Monica Krat will tell us about how the Lenisla is being used in Europe, body contouring and the augmentation with Lenisna. Please.
For invitation. Thank you for Beauty Europe for taking me here to Korea. I'm going to perform today actually pictures of my patients that I worked on. I mostly specialize on the body. Obviously, I do face as well, but I kind of fell in love of product on the body, especially buttocks. So that's what you're going to see at the end. At the beginning, I'm going to show you different parts as well. Not all the pictures are mine because, as I said, I work on buttocks mostly, but thanks to doctors from Poland, I got the permission to show the others, so I hope you're going to enjoy it. And at the beginning, I was prepared to say that, sorry. I was prepared to say that Europe is actually entering the no filler era right now, which is really good, and I'm glad about that because most of my patients are really young patients and they are after fillers already. So the point of Lenisna and the point of collagen stimulators is to stop fillers and work more anti-aging. So that's what we do. And you're going to see on the pictures, there's one patient who is actually after fillers. We dissolved half of them. She also lost her weight, but I'm still trying to ask her to dissolve lips, but you're going to see in a minute what can happen if you overdose fillers. So this is just the video how we dissolve the product. Normally in one ampule I put 5 milliliters of sterile water plus 1 milliliter of lidocaine. And in total we have 6 milliliters. It's just easier for me to mix it on vortex. That's why I do it like this. Sorry, not this one. Oh, it's not that easy. Oh, no. So as I said, 5 mils of water, then 1 milliliter of lidocaine. I put everything into the ampoule, I close it, and I put on vortex for 30 minutes. Then after 30 minutes, I take out and let it chill for like 3 minutes. And this time I take 14 milliliters or cc, however you call it, of water for injections, and I mixed everything in 10 milliliters syringes or 20, depends on what I have next to my hand. It's always easier with 20 to mix it because this is like a lot of milliliters in one. So here you have a schedule where you can apply Lenisna, or where we apply Lenisna in Europe. We mostly focus on neck and décolleté, on arms, on bellies, hands, and as you could see on the previous performance, and above the knees, and as I mentioned at the beginning, buttocks. So for applying over the knees and inner thighs, we usually use 10 up to 12 milliliters on the session. We work with cannula. I work with cannula every time, even on the face or on the body. It's just easier for me. No bruises, so this is how I do. And here, as I said, this is not my picture, not my patient. This is the work of the most famous, I guess, doctor in Poland working on Lenisna, Dr. Bartek, who is sitting there. So here is one ampule, I guess. I guess it's in 20 milliliters, and my guessing is, as I talked with Dr. Bartek, he told me today that he's lazy to mix it in less or more than 20 milliliters, so he usually works on 20 milliliters. So as you can see, laziness is paying off because the work is pretty great, right? And here is the patient that I told you about. When you see the lips, they're like duck face. And I got permission from my patient to show it to you. But the case here is she's a heavy smoker. She lost 5 kilos. She had her cheeks filled, I think, 5 or 6 years before. It disappeared slightly, but then it fell down, so I started to dissolving it. And instead of waiting for the skin to regenerate by itself, I proposed Lenizna because the patient wanted to keep the volume. So that's what we do, and the first procedure was done, and I dissolved Lenizna in 9 milliliters, which is 8 milliliters of Lenizna plus 1 milliliter of lidocaine. And after 2 months, I don't get the picture, but I think it, like we think, me and patient think it's enough, and she doesn't want filler anymore, which is actually the great outcome. And this is another picture. And here is patient, as the previous doctor said, we do have also patients more than 70 years old. This is a patient, actually this is mother of my close patient, and she came with mother to make like a present for her, but the thing was the lady didn't have anything done before, like I think just cream applied on her face. So I thought it's going to be better to do one procedure which is going to work on her. So I decided to do Lenizna. She also lost 9 kilos, up to even 10 kilos in half a year. So you could see on the skin it's loose all over, like everywhere. So we did one session of Lenizna, the same 9 milliliters in total. And here the picture is 2 months after first procedure, because I wanted to see in 2 or 3 months if we need to decide of adding more. But the patient was so satisfied. She said that she doesn't want any more. She was fine with the outcome. So that's what we decide. And here is decollete, and I usually do neck and decollete together, or the bottom part of the face with neck. But I usually use one ampule, and again dissolve in 20 milliliters. Here is the video of how I'm marking the neck and the decollete. Hopefully it's going to work. I focus more on the outer part of the neck and on the first session. And the same with decollete. I believe that on the neck, the outer part is going to tight the neck, and then in the second or third procedure, depends on the case, I add more centrally, because in this way I feel like I control the tightness. I always work with cannula, as I said, 22 gauge or 21 on the buttocks, because it's easier, it's not so flexible. Here is super like right under the skin, as the previous doctor said. You don't go too deep on the neck and on the decollete. And here as well, I do 20 milliliters in total. I just spread everything all over. At first, I mark the areas where I can see wrinkles, where I can see the depression, and I focus mostly over there. And it's not painful, as you can see, the patient is speaking with me all the time. So, yeah. And here, the central part, I tend to go on 3 injection points because it's easier. And this is the right after procedure. In this case, probably we're going to make like 2 more sessions, especially the wrinkles around the neck. And here is my patient, which is 64 years old, as well smoking, excess sun exposure. As you can see on the left picture, there's like super loose skin on her neck, so this is the point of our interest. But plus the lower part of her face and the decollete, we decided in total to give her 40 milliliters of Lenizna. And on the right picture, you have the picture right after second procedure. And what we can see is like smoothness of the skin, and the lower part is more dense. So I think this is quite spectacular. And as I mentioned, she's smoker and excessive sun exposure. So I really believe it's going to work well in the future for her as well. And here is again the same patient from the front view. And this is the picture from our doctor, Dr. Kędzia from Poland as well. And here is again 1 ampule just on the neck. And hence, as you could see in Dr. Park's presentation, we do similar. I mean, I do similar. It depends on the case. Sometimes I do 1 injection point, sometimes 2 or 3. Actually, it depends on the case. If it's easy for me to do it on 1, then I do it. And when the skin is quite loose, then it's okay for me to use 1 injection point. And here's the video as well on hands how I do it. This patient is 56 years old lady or 57. So I spread everywhere, all over. I dissolve it in 20 milliliters and I dissolve 10 milliliters in 1 hand, spread it all over, and after that I do like heavy massage just to make sure it went everywhere. And again, cannula 22 goes, 50 millimeters. Yep. And here is my patient, 62 years old female. As you can see on the spots, excessive sun exposure as well. I did Lenizna 2 times. This is the picture right after second procedure. You can see also a little bit swallowing, but the left hand, it's more loose skin. You can see veins and everything on the right side. This is quite spectacular. Plus, my patients, what they say is like the feeling of the skin is like moisturized after cream. So I think this is like the biggest advantage. And here again is a picture from Dr. Kędzia. On the left side is before procedure. On the right side is just right after the first procedure. And here we have arms, again from 10 to 20 milliliters. Depends on the case. I usually work on 20. Here is the Paula Finas from Bulgaria picture of arm inner part. I believe it's 1 ampule on the arm. And here starts what I like the most. Buttocks. I usually work on 20 milliliters on 1 buttock, but depends on the case, obviously. When I want to lift the buttock, when I want to change like a shape, then the bigger the amount, the better the outcome. But it also depends on the patient. If they cannot afford 2 ampules of Lenizna, then I need to, separate them in different sessions. So at first, I'm going to start with the video. Again, if I'm going to turn it on. So at first I'm marking the outer upper parts where you can see there is like a dimple visible. It's like a pear-shaped buttock. So you work, I work mostly on the upper part because what we want is like circular buttocks, more like apple, not like pear. And that was actually the idea of my patient as well when I asked her what she wants. I work with 22 or 21 gauss. Best for me is 70 millimeters. It's really hard for me with 50 because you need to make a lot of injection points. With 70, I just do up to 3 injection points and I can go around in circular motion, and this is what I do. I mostly focus on upper outer portion. This is my 10 milliliters first start. Then another 10 milliliters I split in 2 options, and depends on the patient, depends on the case. If there is visible dimples and the buttocks looks like a butterfly, then I focus more on obviously the middle part. But when this is like a pear-shaped buttock, I do the upper part at first. And here we have 57 years old female. What we can see here is the dimple that I told you about. Let me check if I can. Here, exactly. There's like a visible dimple in the middle of the buttock. And this is actually the first thing that my patients are always complaining about when I ask them what they want. But instead of just giving the Lanizna over there, I tend to lift the buttock at first and then do the second part in the middle. So this is what we do here. When you have the left picture before the procedure, then the right picture is 3 months after first procedure. And I do mostly the upper part, so you can see that the buttock is lifted a little. And on the second session, right after second procedure, which you can see on the third picture, I focus more on the dimple. And I think it's going to be like another 1 session, and we have the circular buttock that my patient wants. And here is the left side. She also has the problem with her posture. The patient was after accident and her leg was broken, and it's, I think, shorter than the right one, about 2 centimeters, which is visible between pictures. And what I do, I'm going to show you in a minute another patient where you can see the difference. What I do, the first 2 sessions, I do the same, 20 milliliters on each buttock, and the third one, that is like I decide if I need to add more to one buttock than the other, just in case to cover the postural defect. And here is the lateral view. Right after second procedure, you can see that the buttock is slightly changing in this C shape that my patient wants from the lateral point. And here again. Here we have 38 years old female. She lost about 15 kilograms in 5 months. And she came to me because like she's really surprised of look of her buttocks after losing so much of fat and muscles as well. And what I decided is to kind of work on the skin texture on her buttocks, and actually I was curious how it's going to look like on such skinny person, which is quite like cutting calories out of her diet. And what we can see is like on the lower picture, 1 month after second procedure, there is not huge volumizing effect, but the skin is different, and the texture of the skin has changed, as you can see. The buttock is slightly lifted, but there's not huge volume difference. And here is another one. The patient is slightly obese, and her problem was again just the dimples. So I decided just to do one Lenizna, one ampule dissolved in 20 milliliters and just spread it all over, plus mostly focus on the dimples. And she was happy with the outcome, so we decided just to do the first and the last session. Here is the left side. And here is an interesting case because this is the patient that came to me after HA filler in her buttocks. So what I observed when she came, it was like whole buttock filled with MMNs, the huge nodules inside. The big ones I decided to dissolve, but the rest, it was really difficult to do it, plus she didn't want to lose the volume. So I decided to put Lenizna inside. And what we got is the skin texture looking way better. The buttock is the shape of the buttocks is more circular, which was the need for the patient. Plus, I decided to work on her tights because of the cellulite that you can see on the left picture. So in total, we did 30 milliliters on each session. And here the right picture is right after second procedure. Here is the side of the patient. We can see the skin texture differences. There was a lot of irregularities. And here is the patient I told you about with postural defect. You can see she's lifted to the left side. So what we decided, that was her complex. So plus she was super skinny and she wanted bigger volume of her buttocks, plus she wanted to kind of cover the postural defect. So I decided to, at the beginning, I decided to give more to the left buttock because it's so visible that the left one is smaller that I had no point of doing the same amount. In total, I gave 40 milliliters. I just used 15 on the right and the rest on the left, so it wasn't like a huge difference. And she had 3 procedures done, and on the left it's before the procedure, on the right side is right after the 3rd procedure. And it's each session always, I mean mostly in my cases, is 3 months interval. And here is the left side, the smaller buttock side. And here is the right side. And you can see the buttock is lifted. It's not like a huge volumizing effect. It's not after fat grafting, for example. But still, I think the volumizing in such skinny person looks really good. And here is another young patient. She just wanted to kind of change the, again, pear-shaped buttock. So we decided to do 3 sessions because she fell in love after the first one, the second one, so she wanted more and more. We end up on the 3rd one, and I think this is our final result. She's super happy, me too. Her buttocks are lifted, and here you can see on the lateral view, we have the C point, which is like in the middle of the C letter from lateral view. It's way higher than on the left side. So, and interesting thing is, look at the skin texture on the left and the right. We can see the stretch marks. We can see cellulite. After Lenizna, it kind of disappeared. And again, here was just 1 ampule on 2 buttocks. And the belly. Belly, mostly, I mean, most of the cases, this is after pregnancy. And there is one study of Dr. Marlena from Poland. It was before procedure and 2 months after procedure on the right side. The patient was after C-section, so yeah. And here is, when I asked 30 of my patients about buttocks, what's like the most complaints before the treatment. And the visible dimples, as I told you, in the middle of the buttocks was the first thing that I've heard from every of them. Then the loose skin, irregular skin, or they are just too small or flat in the projection from lateral side. And just right after procedure, they said that the skin is looking better. The first thing that I actually got from my patient after 3 months, it was like, oh my God, doctor, I cannot believe on the skin texture that I'm touching. This is so like a velvet thing. So yeah. And thank you so much for attention. Thank you for having me here.
Dr. Craig 강의 감사.
Thank you very much, Dr. Krat. Now it's time for the Q&A. It can be a very small question at the final slide. You said the palpable feeling has changed, the touch has changed, and why is that on the survey? And do you have any thought on this? Difference in touch.
At the end, that my patients, just because of the skin texture, they feel like it's so fluffy. Probably because of like less irregularities that you can feel under your fingers. That's the skin texture difference, I guess.
Yeah, so, skin texture.
Yes, it is thanks to skin texture, and also the touch sensation has improved. And if touch sensation can improve, the Lenisna can probably have some impact on the nerve or the sensory. That was my question. The nerve sensory has affected by the
Touch, I mean, not the touch on the buttock, but like in touch when you grab it. That's the thing. I mean, the nerve sensation, I'm not familiar if there is an outcome of the nerves. I'm just, that was the question and for my patients to kind of explain me what's the difference. So I put it in like simple words for them.
얼굴을 제외한 부위에 augmentation.
except for the face, for the augmentation and the volumizing. Actually, that has not been done a lot in South Korea and many of the Asian countries. That is not a common practice, but according to many cases, the volumizing effect is one of the main use case or main indication. And by using the Lenisna in Europe, and what is the perception of the patient or the acceptance about the patient, especially about the Lenisna product?
If I understood correctly, you mean that normally you use it for volumizing effect, right? So in Europe, we do the same. And for example,
한국에서는
So in Korea, actually, we do not apply this product to body. But in Europe, actually, this is frequently used for body. So Korea, we focus on face, but in Europe, you also apply this on the body as well. So what is the satisfaction of a European patient? Could you share about that?
I think I mean, in Europe, we kind of try to have perfect bodies. And as I can see on my patients, they have such, I mean, a lot of works done on their face. So in order for them to keep this young looking body posture compared with face, it's really important for us to also do it on the neck, on the decollete, and the body, as I could show you on belly and so on. So I think except from going to the gym, keeping healthy diet, it's really working good for my patients to kind of help them with the skin texture, because I really believe that in the gym you can work on your muscles but not on your skin when it's kind of too late, when you expose it to the sun for too long. So that's why I believe we work so much on it in Europe.
So, Dr. So, do you have a question?
For your informative lecture.
Thank you.
Body filler is not popular indication in Korea, so your lecture is very interesting.
Thank you.
And I have one comment and one question. One comment is, most of after picture you showed us is just right after procedure.
Second.
So in such case, we cannot exactly evaluate the before and after volume. So
Yeah, but it wasn't right after the first procedure, but most of the pictures are right after second procedure.
yeah, but you did 20 or 40 mil
Yeah.
every session, so
Yeah.
it's I think it's difficult to evaluate
To see the difference.
the
That's why I didn't do the before and right after the procedure, but like I see the biggest result when I wait 3 months after the first procedure and then I apply second one. And obviously the amount of the Lenizna is 20 milliliters, but still one ampule, as you could see on the right after pictures, I will just go back and show you, one ampule is not going to give you the here you have just one ampule spread in 2 buttocks, and this is right after the first procedure. But when you can see the different, here is after the third one, so the voluminizing effect is way different. And I have here right after the second procedure, still the first one worked so well on the voluminizing effect that the second was just like a cherry on the cake. That's why I decided to show it in this way, because if I would show you every right after the first procedure, right after the second procedure, it was like a lot of pictures. That's why I just decided to show you what I see as the best result. And this is usually after the second procedure.
But if we take the photo right after procedure,
Yeah.
then the volume effect we inject
Yeah.
was added.
Yeah, but still, you have the hyaluronic acid, so you're going to have instant voluminizing effect right after the procedure. Obviously, this is non-cross-linked, so it's going to disappear in like around 1 month. But then the collagen starts working. So what you can see after the procedure, anyway, is going to be what you're going to get after 3 months, as you can see on the second picture. Yeah.
Okay, my question question is related with interval. You showed me usually 3 months is the interval.
Yeah.
But
Because this
do you have
is-
any benefit of 3 months is the interval for body filler compared to usual 1 month interval in Korea for face?
We don't do 1 month interval in Europe. This is like the protocol that the main doctor from Lenizna recommends us, and that's why we just keep it. And what I see right after 1 month is not huge voluminizing effect. It's actually even lower than after the procedure, even after 3 weeks. I believe this is due to hyaluronic acid, which is kind of disappearing from the tissue. And then after 2 months, you can see the difference. But still, I'm not sure if the volumizing process is like stopped. So I rather wait for another month, because we are not in hurry. And I always say it to my patients that we want 3 months to be sure that the effect is what we could get. And then after 3 months, we decide if we want to make another procedure or we are satisfied with the result right now. So that's why we always do the 3 months.
Do you repeat the 3 months interval for face, the same interval?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
좋은 강의 해주셔서 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. Neck crease, wrinkle, and on the buttock. When you treat, have you ever used Juveloc and Lenisna on the same day? And if that is the case, compared to Lenisna single dose, is there any benefit when you're using the combination therapy between the Juveloc and Lenisna?
I did, but not on the same part. I mean, we have the first patient that you could see at the beginning. I forgot to mention that she had Juveluc under her eye, but Lenisna on the face. So I will go to the front. It's not the same. It's not the same part, right? So I cannot tell you if the benefit it's visible. I think it. I mean, I believe it is because you work in different particles, different the size of the particle of PDLA. But I didn't work. I didn't mix it all together. So I mix it only in this case. I mean, in this such a cases when you have under eye, we don't put Lenisna under the eyelid. We always work on Juveluc, plus voluminizing, bigger voluminizing effect on the lower and cheek area in this particular patient.
그러면 혹시 더 얕?
And on the lower layer, if we have the Juveloc, and on the deeper layer, you can have the Lenisna on the deeper layer. And on the same spot, two combination therapy, you said no on the same day.
I work on Juveluc just in the teardrop area and a little bit under. So we don't, I mean, I didn't work here on this patient because I don't see her under eye area so weak. So I thought that it's going to be better for her to work on her cheek so the skin is tightened in this area. Plus her teardrop just with Juveluc, just to make it more voluminized. But at the end, I believe in her case, I would use filler in her teardrop because this is, as you can see, like a huge hollow under.
감사합니다.
Thank you.
선생님, 시간
So time is limited, so let me share comment. So when those two products are used at the same time on the subdermal and also epidermal, if we do at the same time, that will be better because on the epidermal we have all the action and in the subdermal we have a later actions. So well, we should wait for about 2 or 3 months when it comes to the subdermal. So as we can see, well, we saw the 3 months interval. After 3 months interval, we could see the volumization effect. So if we have a 1 month interval, so well, patient actually do the subdermal without the witnessing and the actual differences. So it is better to wait for about the 2 or 3 months. So 1 month interval, that is not quite proper, and also the patient do not have a great satisfaction. So my argument is let's wait for about 3 months. And if we just ask to wait for about 3 months, and some patients do not go for the second session because they have a great result with one single session after 3 months. So the patient, they do not want to do the second session. When if there is a combination, discussion, that will be better. But procedure time gets longer. That give inconvenience both to the doctors and the patient. So I believe when it comes to the combination, one on the epidermis and the other for the hypodermis, if we do the both, that will be better. Well, as for the epidermis, actually we can do the further studies. So, but anyhow, I believe it is better to wait for about 3 months. We do not have exact data, but it is better to wait for about 3 months in order to see the big differences. That is my comment. Well, thank you for the comment. So the Dr. Craig shared her the cases, but lift the outcome was shared. So volumizing effect and that cannot be widely applied in the Asia market. But as for the buttock lifting, and that can be well received among Asian the patient. So, well, we can have further discussions about buttock lifting mechanism. It will take many hours, but anyhow, we can have a take-home message regarding buttock lifting so that we can have a discussion next time. So with this, we are going to wrap up the second session.
네, 두 번째 세션의
Thank you, Dr. Monica Cret, and also Dr. Ko Woo-seok. Thank you very much for chairing the session. Thank you very much. We are a bit overdue, but we can take 10 minutes of the coffee break, and we're gonna resume the session starting from 9:30. Panel discussion will begin starting from 9:30. And during the panel discussion, you can see more case studies, and you can see before and after photos, and also you can get some practical tips. Please be with us till the end of the event, and after the panel discussion, we're gonna have the lucky draw, and we are going to select 7 people for your gifts. Please refer to the lucky draw number at the back of your name tag. AirPod, Nespresso machine, and the diffuser are waiting for you. So please be with us, and we're gonna resume the session in 10 minutes.
완, 예, 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 이게 아주, 예, 예. 네, 잠시 뒤 패널 디스커션 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 모두
We're gonna begin panel discussion momentarily. Please come inside and take a seat.
예, 패널 분들 먼저 자리 위치해 주시길 바라겠습니다.
I ask panelists to be on the stage.
네, 곧 패널 디스커션 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
We will begin the panel discussion in a moment. And also, I ask all the panelists to be on the stage.
준비가 되면은 바로 시작할 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
We will begin once everything is ready.
네, 저희 바임 글로벌 담당자분들께서는 그 원장님들 자리에 착석하실 수 있도록 도움 부탁드리겠습니다. 이게 생각보다 계획이 만들었습니다. 지금은 예, 곧이어 패널 디스커션 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
We will begin the panel discussion in a moment. I cordially ask you to come inside and take a seat.
네, 잠시 뒤 패널 디스커션 진행하도록 하겠습니다.
Once again, we'll begin the panel discussion in a moment. Please come inside and take a seat.
그리고 패널 디스커션 모두 마치게 되면은 럭키 드로
After the panel discussion, there will be a lucky draw.
오늘 저희가 그 가장 맨 처음 그 강의로 저기 줄기세포 관련 강의를
We heard about the lecture about stem cell. On your memo pad, we are going to have a webinar on the 6th of September. And if you are interested in the cellular experiences and the animal test outcome, you are invited to a webinar. So on the 6th of September, at 6 Korean time, you can join us and you can listen further about the stem cell research. Now, last but not least, panel discussion is waiting for you. The moderator will be Dr. Park Chae-young. And Dr. Park was introduced already, so let me skip the introduction about Dr. Park. And Dr. Park, the floor is yours. Thank you. This is the last session for today. This is going to be a real fun because we have renowned doctors. In this Jupiter Symposium, now we can start the panel discussion. Let me introduce the panels. And we have Dr. Min Chung and also Dr. Choi Ho-sung and also Dr. Kim Chae-young. And we have Dr. Monica Krat from Poland. We have 4 panel discussants. Each doctor will give you a case review, and Monica will join us in our discussion. Dr. Min Chung is going to share a case, and we're going to take a look at the case for about 5 minutes, and then we can have some more discussion. Dr. Min, I'm Min from the Ready Dermatology Clinic, and I've been using Juvelog and Juvelog Volume. If I did not have confidence, I would not have recommended Juvelog products to patients. And today, I'm going to share 2 cases which made me confident about Juvelog products. The first one is overall look or the image improvement. She was losing weight and she looked older than her age. The front cheek and the side cheek and the temporal area, nasolabial fold, and these were the 4 areas where she wanted to get the injection, and there were 2 procedures with the interval of the 4 weeks. And on the lip side, she had some issues, so there was a Botox injection on her lip side. And at that time, I did not know how to use the Juvelog on her lip side, but these days I'm recommending Juvelog to correct the lips. On the lateral view, you can see her outlook has been corrected and gotten much better. I have analyzed a lot of the photos before and after, not just sunken skin, but also when you are losing your weight, you do not look healthy enough. In that case, Juvelog volume can be highly recommended. The first case was a typical case. Now let me move to the second case, which had a severe volume loss, and there are some asymmetry in the patient. As you can see, she has lots of the volume loss on the right side. On the left side, she has a sunken of the volume. Before the treatment, I was not sure whether Juvaro volume will be working right or not. And I started my procedure. My procedure was given on the right side and also a little bit to the left side because two sides needs correction. Anyway, the injection volume was different between the two sides. In the third procedure, she looks like this. This is right after the second procedure, and you can see the volume has been corrected. And I got confident and I recommended 2 more procedures. And you can see this is the photo right after the fourth procedure. She got much better, and I believe that she will get much better as time goes by. After this case, and even though the patient has a severe volume loss, I can strongly recommend Juveloc product. And even in the asymmetric case, I can recommend Juveloc. Juveloc volume can have a volumization effect. Do not worry too much about the volumizing effect of the Juveloc volume. That's it from me. Thank you. Thank you very much for the wonderful case. The first case was typical, the lateral cheek, the sunken correction. That was the typical case. But the second case was unique. Didn't she have any pathological condition? Because she had a very severe entropy only on side. Pathologically, she was okay. Her health was okay. And sometimes, in that case, people usually have some dental issues, but as far as I know, she did not have any dental issues. What was the injection amount? These days, I'm mixing with a 9 cc, but at the time it was 8 cc. So it was 8 to 2. So 8 was used for the bigger sunken. What about other doctors? What do you think about this? And in the case of the asymmetry, there are some patients who are suffering from a little bit of the asymmetry. And what's your injection amount or the distribution in the case of asymmetry? I'm Che. In the case of asymmetry, the correction is not that easy. And with the HA filler, when you are trying to correct the asymmetry, in that case, let's say you put 5 cc and on the other side you put 1 cc, but that's not recommended because even though you have a high level of the asymmetry, HA filler will have the swelling effect. The volumization can be sometimes too big, and the volume migration can also take place. So even though your design is careful with the HA, however, after a few months, sometimes there is another asymmetry between the left and right. So I do not usually use the HA for the asymmetry, or I'm very conservative. However, Juveloc volume is different because even though you put bigger volume on the one side, the volumization effect is not that big. Even though the ratio on the left and the right is different, in that case, you are not going to have the reverse correction or awkward outcome. So, what I'm saying is you can reduce the gap between the left and the right with the Juveloc volume. And the Juveloc volume can be really effective in doing that.
김태형 원장님 의견 있으신지요?
Dr. Kim?
네, 톡센페이 김태형입니다. 사실 이 주베룩
Not only just the Juveloc volume, but any kind of collagen stimulation. Well, I'm not sure about how collagen stimulator can be effective in asymmetry correction, and I was not that confident. And Dr. Min showed me the case. And I became a little bit more confident once I'm back to my office. I can try this kind of procedure and different layer, different volume with the Juberov volume to correct the asymmetry. That can be possible, and that's a positive influence for me. Thank you, Dr. Min. And for the asymmetry correction, I usually use HA filler, usually. And collagen stimulator can be also effective. So that's something that I learned, and that has a huge implications. PLLA has disadvantage. We do not know how much collagen boost there will be. We do not know. So we cannot use that for the asymmetric correction. However, Juberov volume can be used for asymmetry correction. Monica correct. And there must be some body asymmetry. And body asymmetry rejuvenation, injection amount difference, and what is your procedure? Can you share your experiences for the body asymmetry?
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So as I could show you on the two patients, there was like asymmetry in left and right buttock, and that was actually due to postural defect, but still we could observe the difference in the size. As the doctor said before, I wasn't so confident of using at the beginning the different amount of Lanizna. So what I do, and what makes me sleep better is when on the first and second procedure, I do the same amount, because I believe that going into perfection of correction, the asymmetry is going to actually, I mean, at the end you're going to lose, because nobody is perfect symmetrically on both sides. So what I do is like, I kind of build the volume, and then at the third session, I decide if I apply a little bit more on the side, but I'm quite sure that I prepared the volume. Yeah.
네, 좋은 경험 쉐어 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for sharing the experience. PLAA can have a really good indications as we have shared, and scleroderma and some of the pathological conditions. HA can be used for the asymmetry correction, but I personally believe the stem cell proliferation or the PLAA can have a better use case or the better substance to use. Thank you for sharing wonderful cases.
는
Let's move to the second case. For that, we are going to invite Dr. Choi Ho-sung from Piana, and Dr. Choi will share the presentation first. So I'm going to introduce the areas I like and the areas I frequently do. I'm going to share case examples. So this one is a dilution and the methodologies. So actually, Monica shared her practice. And my practice and her practice is a lot different. In my case, I create 10 cc and do injections. Recently, the calcium hydroxy, the substance that is added. So total is a 10 cc, but sometimes I have the additions of calciums. So when there are sunken cases and the calcium is added, and based on my experience, in the case I have more volumizations. So the 22G cannula is used in my practice. So as for the injection and the techniques, I have more the dense injections rather than fanning. So you can see the names I coined. So actually, I want to have some more tightening effect on the skin. So the 6 weeks is my interval. So rather than 1 month, it might be better to do 2 or 3 months in order to see the accurate result. So there is the wrinkle the around the rib areas. So as we get older, and also sometimes someone lose a lot of weight, and there can be some wrinkle issues. So tissue resistancy that can be reduced. HEA filler can cause a problem because of irregularity. This area has a lot of movement. So in the case, we can consider Juberuk. So rather than the volumizer, biostimulation is more focused. So after the sessions, we could see much better result in the skin textures and the skin tones. The amount can be different case by case. The cheek is done, and HA filler also the use in the combination. In the case, the shape can be improved. So combination is frequently done. This is a period line. So, well, in this case, there is not much sagging, but still we can see the volume issues. In the case, HA filler can be considered, but HA filler can have limitations, and also the lasting duration is shorter. So the Juberuk is used in my case. So, well, 2-layer application is done as we discussed earlier. So one for the epidermis, the other for hypodermis. So, well, rejuvenation effect can be enhanced in that case. So that will lead to higher satisfaction of a patient. In this case, there is no great sagging, but when it comes to the perioral areas, there is a wrinkle. So in my case, the Juveluk is my first choice. And this one is a neck areas. It takes more time, and also it is not easy to do these sessions, but that is fun. And I frequently do the neck area procedures. So Asian patients also have a great interest about neck areas. So when it comes to the heavy wrinkle, the energy-based devices and skin booster alone, we cannot have the desired outcome. In the case, this filler can be used. So the neck, wrinkle can be reduced with Juveruk, and the tissue hardening issue can be reduced as well. So personally, I prefer the Juveruks. So 2 viral is used. So 1.5 or 2 viral use and full entry point, and the patient worried to have a thicker neck. So initially, I also worried about that, but after the Juvaruk, I didn't see any the thicker neck cases. But sometimes I witnessed the neck size has been reduced. That is a quite interesting part. So Jubaru can be applied according to the line. So overall, after Jubaruk volume, neckline can be improved. So here you can see the deeper lines on the left side, but that has been improved on the right side. So the neck lifting can be witnessed after these sessions. So which means skin tightening has been achieved, and also neck tone has been improved. So these 2 pictures has been taken in the same circumstances. So skin tone has been much improved on the right side. So in this case, the skin quality is poor and the skin tone is dark. So not only the Juveluk, and also I applied 1 viral of Juveluk volume. So line improved and also skin tone improved as well. In this case, the patient said, and she feel the neck size has been reduced even after these sessions. So this is quite severe. Juberu can be applied according to the line, and also we can see skin quality can be improved, and the skin tightening can be achieved after the session. So when we wash the wool-based clothes, the total size of the wool-based knit is reduced, and I could see the same effect here. That is a kind of tightening. I could see skin tightening effect here. Juvaruk volume is a lot different from the HA filler, and the patient do not like a filler, so the collagen stimulator is the name I use to patient. So we can give the volumes, but in essence, I believe skin tightening can be done so that the skin loosening can be improved, and also overall the textures can be improved. That's why the patients are willing to pay money for that. Thank you. Well, you shared two different cases, and as for the first one, actually calcium, that is a mix. So that is quite interesting. That should be off the record, but anyhow, with the calcium, without calcium, what did you expect? So the Unlocking Hidden Secret, that is the title of this discussion session. So we can share our secret kind of a secret recipe. So some might worry about adding calcium, but when I use the Juvaruk volume, I added calcium from the initial the time. So when initial volume is small, there can be complaint from patient, and also satisfaction can be reduced. The patient want to have a natural look, but still they want to have some differences. So in order to see the difference, I added calcium. There was some worries from other doctors, so I stopped at the stop of adding calciums. But I considered calcium again because that is a biostimulator. So the amount of mix of calcium, and that can be based on my instinct, and that is about 10% in many cases. So I do not see dramatic volumization effect, but as for the sunken patient, and I believe some patient need HA filler, but they do not want to use a filler. In the case, I can add calcium in order to compensate the effect. And I believe CMC that will be resolved and after all. So I do not know the exact reaction mechanism, but when calcium is added, and there can be some changes and meaningful the effect, and we can see new product which has a calcium in it these days. So there can be some positive effect by adding calcium. I still study the case, but I believe there is some the volume and the effect. So that is about 10%, right? So volumizing effect can be seen, and the CMC also have a swelling effect, so that can be enjoyed as well. The hybrid filler, that is the HA plus calcium. So Hyalin that was introduced to Korean market, but that did not enjoy great popularity. So Lubia that was introduced to Korean market again. So, and also the harmonica products, and has the calcium. So in this case, calcium have about 55%, which is quite the big amount. So because of some the limitations of existing products, and calciums are added, and new products have a calcium. So based on that, we want to have the additional effect. So calcium and the lidocaine and the saline and the dose can be added, and toxin can be added as well. So is there any the other hidden recipe? So could you share that? So this is off the record, so you can share that. All of us are experts, so we can digest well. So I actually unlock all the secret. So I do not do the PN and mixing, but anyhow I do calcium mixing. And if you have any questions during our discussion, you can interrupt us. You can make a comment and also ask questions. So horizontal leg line, and that was introduced. The Jubaruk and Jubaruk volume in both use for the neck. So how did you do that? Did you use a cannula? So did you use Jubaruk or Jubaruk volume with a cannula? So deep to the superficial, that is my the principle. So the fanning is done first. So, well, there can be some the missing point, but I want to do the even injection as much as possible. That is my basic principle. So neckline is the big complaint. So, well, filler can be used there. Initially, I used the filler. So according to the line in the intradermal, and I had the additional injections. So I think the filler is a lot expensive, and also it doesn't last for long period. So the patient do not have a great the satisfactions. So the along the line 42 milliliter, the Jubaru can be used, but there should be special the techniques. So the neck is exposed. So exposed area, so there should be very cautious approach. So line can be removed based on cautious injection, and when you give the volume, the perpendicular, way of injection can be done. That is recommended. So just you can do injections just like creating bridges. So that can be one way. So you can reduce the lines, and also the surrounding tissues can be tightened. Based on that, you can see long-lasting effect. Transverse neckline, and that they can be treated with a filler. I use the filler, but there are a few limitations. The duration is short as for filler, and also that area can see the hardening. So I use a cannula and secure the space, but still there are some the Tyndall effect issues. And if I do the shallow applications, there can be some issues. So as Dr. Che said, Juvaruk volume can be done, and according to neckline, and the Juvaruk can be injected. So Juvaruk volume and Juvaruk can be used together. How about other doctors? Do you have any secret recipe in neck area? How about Monica? You introduced the neck neck treatment case. Any secret?
I combine mostly Lanisna with botulinum toxin. If I relax platysma well, then I believe that the strength of the muscle is kind of causing also the lines that we can observe. Plus, as you mentioned, with the filler, again, I would never use filler on the neck without botulinum toxin, because it's like working all the time. So we actually, in few months, gonna have even bigger problem, because filler is going to spread in the places where we don't want it. So that's why we talk about combining, I always combine it with botulinum toxin.
You are mixing toxin.
I'm not mixing inside, because this is like a mesobotox, that's how we call it sometimes. But no, at first I do the toxin procedure. I wait with the patient, and then again I invite him for the recap, and then we decide about the Juvaluk or Lanisna.
또 사실은 HA 대
So compared to HA, the collagen stimulator has the big the benefits in the midline case. So the Botox and fillers cannot make any big differences in the middle line. So in the Well, actually, in the muscles in the middle line, and there is a no the muscles, so the adhesion is quite severe in the middle line. So by using the collagen and the booster and the stimulator, this middle line can be improved. So, well, in the lower area, in the cervical fascia, there can be some adhesion issues. In that case, the HA filler can be considered, but it does not have a big differences. That's why the Juveru can be applied. So as for the midline, so compared to HA filler, the Juveru has a great and greater strength indeed. And as Monica said, and the toxin can be applied as well. The shallow injection can be done as a combination. Well, any further comments about neck? So how about Dr. Chess case? Well, any further comments about Dr. Chess case? Well, if not, let's go to the Dr. Kim's case.
네.
I'm Kim Tae-young from Talks and Feel. It's late at night, and this is the last session. I want to make it short. Please stay with us. One simple case. By using Juvelook and the Juvelook volume, what kind of considerations I did have, and what kind of homework I have, and what is my future plan. 30-year-old male patient. Past history is he had nose cosmetic surgery. Main complaint was he looks older than his age. I'm losing volume, so I want to have some volumizing effect. I heard about Juverock volume. I want to know more about this. And at the lower face, and you can see some volume loss. So he wanted to have the filler injection and volumization effect at the same time. And marionette line, and also on the chin line there was a treatment, and I made a plan. And I personally do not use HA filler on the same point with the Juvelock. For the marionette, I usually use the Juvelock volume. In the second and the third procedure, Juvelock volume was used. If you decide to use the Juvelock volume, in which part can we get the best outcome? It is a matter of the choice. And also, another homework given to you is Juvelock volume. To which layer should I inject for better collagen boosting? This is not a fat transposition, or this is not a HA filler. And if you are just targeting the sub-Q, the collagen boosting can be the maximum, or what kind of technique should I use? That was my key consideration when I have been using Juverock volume. This is after the procedure. When I talk about the satisfaction level along with the patient, you need to open your heart. But sometimes, when you take a look at before and after, yes, to some people, this might be very satisfactory. To some people, this might not be satisfactory at all. Can you see where the injection was made? Can you tell? You are the expert about the Juvelock and the Juvelock volume. You have your dilution recipe, you have your technique. and everything should be different, and everything can be correct. But today, I'm just simply sharing my case, my recipe, and I want to get some help from you. Yes, it looks better than before. Temple, anterior malar cheek, nasolabial fold, and marionette, posterior cheek, lateral cheek. These were the points. These are the usual routine points of the juvenile volume, and Dr. Park suggested similar points. And maybe I'm not that wrong, thanks to Dr. Park's comment. Sometimes I can do some modification, more volume injection, and in this case, the marionette can be accepted on the second and the third turn, and I can inject juvenile volume. The patient satisfaction was really high because the look was getting better and looked natural. With the juvenile volume, what you can get is, yes, volumizing effect. Skin texture is getting better, and the touch on the skin is getting better. This patient had the same satisfaction. On the lateral side, you can see on the temple, you can see some volumization. Arterial malar cheek and posterior cheek. On the lateral cheek, you can see more volume. On the marionette, even with the filler, the improvement was not that great. However, the patient's satisfaction was quite high. I can say this is the trend, the natural look. That's why I'm using juvenile volume quite frequently. After the 3 cycles of the juvenile volume, I can make this kind of outcome. Let me tell you about my procedure. I am rather aggressive. Normal saline 660 and vortex mixer 40-minute mix. I do not mix in advance. And whenever decision is made, then I start mixing the preparation. As I said, the indication is temple, anterior malar cheek, nasolabial fold, marionette, posterior cheek, lateral cheek. Sometimes I avoid some points, some areas, but these are the usual target points. Because collagen stimulation and volumization can be done really well in these areas. I usually use needle, 27Z, half-inch needle, and manual injection. The key point for me is this one. Which layer should be the target layer, and which technique should be used to have the optimal outcome, optimal collagen stimulation. Whenever I am doing the collagen stimulation, I am thinking about the layer. Subdermal layer and the deep subcutaneous layer can be the target layer. Sometimes there are some areas where you do not have any deep subcutaneous layer. If you are targeting subdermal and deep subcutaneous layer, cannula is the better option. Needle is a better option. For my technique, needle is more convenient and needle is more accurate. There is no correct answer. Some people would say needle is better. Some people would say cannula is better. After 1 or 2 years, I have used more than 1,000 vials of Juveluc and the Juveluc volume. I become confident and the patient satisfaction level is quite high. After 1 year, probably I may have more homework to do and maybe I have more considerations to think about. I become more confident and confident, then it is time for me to modify my recipe and modify my technique and the protocol. Polymer is really interesting because you can try many things. There is no correct answer. How you use it is the correct answer. So this can be a great exploration for me. Thank you. Dr. Kim, thank you very much. Many of you have a different technique and different recipe. He is using 6cc on the face, but for me, I'm using 8cc. Sometimes one vial is not good enough when there is a deep sunken. So each technique can be different person by person, expert by expert. But for the beginners, we can give some tips. As we are gathered here today, moderate skin thickness, moderate sunken, female, and what is your recipe, and what is the interval? What is your usual protocol? Yes, for me, the mix is always the same. NS 7cc, 2 days before, and on the treatment day, lidocaine 2cc, so total 9cc. For me, one vial at a time, because juberok volume can be really effective to some patients. Volumization can be big enough. And in that case, more frequent procedure can be better. What is the interval? And the interval is usually 1 month and the 3 cycle. Dr. Che? For me, yes, it's a case by case. But for me, I should have a basic guideline. I have my palm. And this is the 1 vial coverage area. And if you need the 2 vial, yes, you can cover 2 cheeks. And for the forehead, just a 1 vial. On the neck, sometimes 1 or 2, and usually 2. That is my procedure. As I told you, and I use with the 8cc mix, and I usually add 2 more cc, so total is the 10cc. And juberok volume is horizontally injected usually. And on the deep side, I'm not using the juberok volume. And HA pillar, vertical bolus injection with needle is made. And then I add the volume. You said 1 palm, 1 vial. On the both cheeks, you use 2 vials. Yes, for the medial and the lateral cheek, 1 vial cannot cover the medial and the lateral. In that case, 2 vials per cheek. And I can see Mr. CEO is smiling. 2 vials per cheek. My recipe is the Beijing recipe, normal cell line 660. 1 vial per person. And 1 month interval, 3 cycle. Sometimes there are patients who needs 2 vials of the juberok volume. Sometimes 1 juberok and the 1 juberok volume. 4 weeks interval is something that we learned. And I'm not sure whether that's rationale or not, 4 weeks interval. But as Dr. Seo said, he talked about 2 weeks interval. 2 months. He talked about 3 months, but at the week 2, patient satisfaction is the highest. So I'm not sure how I should control that kind of patient satisfaction. How about you, Monica? On the face, What is your basic protocol?
So as I mentioned in my presentation, I usually work on 9 cc on the face. The first thing why I do it is it's just easier for me to count it. So I do like 4, 4, and then another what's left I can spread all over where I need like the more volume. But the second part is that it's easier for me to work on cannula when the dilution is bigger because the particles are not sticking inside of cannula because like that's what my observation is. When the dilution is less, then I need to change cannula more often. So instead, I just learned this way. Plus, the company also advise us to use higher formulas. Yeah.
네, 좋은 의견 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the opinion. We are well delayed, but we can just get 1 or 2 questions or the comments from the floor before we wrap up the session. We talked about the injection layer. So you should target the dermis with the cannula, and then you can do some injection. And for the deep subcutaneous, and you need to inject closer to SMAS. For the fat injection, and Dr. So told me how to do that. For the fat injection, sometimes you go deeper than the SMAS. Sometimes you have the bone touch. So that can be the most ideal layer. There are fibrosepta in the subcutaneous layer, but sometimes when the spacing is too big, the satisfaction might not be that high. Dr. So, any comment?
So actually, the Jubaruk is used for skin texture improvement rather than volumization effect. So listening from panelists and also presentation from the Monica, and Jubaruk volume itself can give skin tightening effect. So, well, I still have issues in neck area. So as people get older, neck next T, and those can be loosened, and there can be increasing lines on neck. So as the people get older, there are more need and demand for neck, and I could get answer from your discussion. So please deliver microphone back end. So I'm Park Jun-hong. So when I think about the volumizations, so the collagen and the dermis, and well, that can be reduced. So when we cure scar, and actually we can do the dermis injections, but as for the volumizations, and when as for the volumizations, we are targeting subdermal areas. So we have some confusions whether the collagen is generated there, and there were asymmetry cases. And when we have the practice to resolve asymmetry, and if we apply the collagen, and that will the tissue gets harder, But when I touch that one, and that is soft, so I think that might be because of fat and adipose rather than collagen. If collagen is generated, and when I touch that, that should be harder. But when I touch that, that is soft. So I assume that that might be because of fat and adipose. So, well, it will be good if we have a long-lasting effect, and if time goes, and if we can get more effect, and well, so there can be some collagen generations, and in the dummies there are certainly the collagen generation, but there are some the impact from fat generations in adipose. And as for the scar, the well cure, I could see the same effect. So the place that used to be in the fat and that is filled with the collagen. So as time goes, collagen moved to the other area because that is the place that is not the place for the collagen. So I think the volumization can be visible, but that might not be because of collagen. That might be because of fat and adipose. And I want to have further discussions about that, but time is limited today, so I just raised a topic today. So thank you for the comments. So lipogenesis, the study is undergoing, and Dr. John and the professors are participating in the study. So this time next year, there can be further discussions about that based on the scientific data. So thank you for the presentation and the discussions. So the Dr. Cheo Sung shared the neck case. So the neck size gets smaller after the procedures, and I could witness that on the face case. So when volumization is done, the face size gets smaller. And when we use a 3D camera, and when we see the images, and after procedures, the face size gets smaller. So, well, needle injector, so that can be applied. So when we use the jubaruk and when we spread the jubaruk in even way, and if that can be done in the repetitive manner, and we can see the differences. Needleless injector that can be used initially. The jubaruk volume can be used. The contour can be improved, and also the face size gets smaller, and also the face shape gets prettier. And when I use a 3D camera, the actual size of the face gets smaller. So when I see the 3D camera images, the size gets smaller. So I had the numerous questions in our mind. And I want to increase the volume, but the volume size has been reduced. So how about your experience? So what is the most important thing is the satisfaction of a patient that matters. I did not check and measure the volume. But well, before the procedures, some patients worry about thick neck. But after procedures, I get the feedback that the necks get smaller. I also had same wonder in my mind. So the Dr. Monica actually shared the similar cases, and I believe when I see the body case, I could see the similar ones. The 20 cc is diluted, and that 1 vial was applied per each buttock. But we could see the volumizations, and I think the tightness has been improved and total changes has been made. So the size can be smaller, but contour and the shape can improve after procedures. And that is the big differences. So the skin loosening can be improved and the texture can be improved, and that's essentially what we want. So rather than volume gets smaller or bigger, and if there is the total the improvement, that matters. as the people gets older, so the texture gets bad, so the volume gets bad as well. So we can do the proper procedures and the line and the contour, and that is more important on body. So we should focus on that. So we are now well behind the schedule. Is there any last moment comment or questions from the floor? So then we are going to wrap up this discussion session. So we had an informative discussion. With this, we are going to wrap up this session. Thank you so much for your participation. And thank you to all the audiences. So like this, we officially wrap up.